Typically, people opining on how much they miss Blockbuster and how we're worse off for not having it make me roll my eyes. Film in general is categorically more widely available now in every format, for a direct or indirect fee, that Blockbuster, a company that worked very hard to do widespread harm to cinema as an art form, absolutely does not deserve any sort of lionization. They're mostly incidental to what folks are really dwelling on, the nostalgia of recapturing the feeling of being a child. We lost very little as film fans when Blockbuster went under, but there was something present that, for several reasons, we as a culture never quite recaptured: the video game rental. There have been some measures since, whether they're mail delivery services like GameFly, which is somehow still running, by the way, short-lived store kiosks like Redbox, or the latest genesis, Microsoft's incredible Game Pass, which is wide-ranging and deeply convenient and a massive improvement in nearly every way over the old way of doing things. But that specific experience of going to a store, picking out a game, coming home, popping it in, and having it for the weekend, that's entirely gone. Game Pass is completely superior, but it is also a home subscription service, where you can swap out and pick new games at any time. Games these days are also so massive that every game you play requires a lengthy download. The essence of casually popping in something new is lost. The idea of the rental game, a game that is designed to be played for a short while and then returned, denotes a whole genre that doesn't really exist anymore. Similar to what's currently happening in the film industry, there's seemingly only two classes of games now. The massive billion-dollar AAA epic that costs so much money that it has to represent a 150-hour time commitment to even complete, or teeny tiny indie games that you only hear about because somebody on a podcast turned you on to it. The major studio middle-brow release, something well-funded but low-key, just isn't really there. Back in 1999, it remained a fundamental cornerstone of the industry, and video game journalists across the board used the rental game as an essential metric. Good for a rental, damning with faint praise maybe, but letting you know exactly what you'd be getting if you so chose. Toy Commander, published by Big Sega itself, is the essence of a rental game. A slight, inconspicuous, unobtrusive little game that is absolutely perfect to play for a couple days, when you don't have anything better to do. Taking inspiration from the granddaddy of all miniature vehicle game series, Micro Machines, Toy Commander's creators said they did, quote, everything they could to avoid comparisons to the Toy Story franchise, which is funny considering this game has a stated plot about a boy whose sentient old toys band together to rebel against new toys that he's received for Christmas, and that boy's name is Andy. It's even funnier considering that the story is so flimsy that it's basically non-existent, functioning entirely as an excuse to hang a series of tiny domestic vehicle adventures on, with no need for a narrative at all. The game has you working through Andy's house, room by room, unlocking levels by flying tiny planes or tiny helicopters, as well as driving tiny cars or manning tiny tanks. I've always been a sucker for miniature interactive facsimiles of real places and things, whether it's Colorado's charming old tiny town attraction, or the artificial storefronts from the game show Shop Till You Drop. It's always something I've found appealing, so I was absolutely in the pocket for this game right away. It gets fairly repetitive pretty quickly, but I found myself committed to working over and over to try and get through some of these meticulous home levels. I had to work rather hard to do so, because another fundamental tenet of the classic rental game is that its controls have to be kinda janky. Not so f***ed up that it's ruinous, but everything's gotta feel a little broken. Toy Commander absolutely fits this bill, and I worked furiously to navigate its exacting little automobiles and its fussy little planes around places like the kitchen, or the inexplicably flooded living room, adjusting for its functional limitations to keep from slamming into the water, or screwing up some facet of its Rube Goldberg setups. In a funny bit of unwitting confirmation bias, I started playing this game on a Friday night, and got kinda obsessed with it, putting basically every free moment of the subsequent Saturday and Sunday into getting as far as I could through the game. And then I stopped playing it, sometime around Sunday afternoon, and haven't gotten back to it since. Even as I intended to jump back in, I knew, somewhere deep in my subconscious, that Toy Commander is a game designed to be played non-stop for 48 hours and not a moment more. Without even realizing it, my brain decided, no matter what access I had, mentally, I had already taken Toy Commander back to the video store. Next time...
President's daughter's been kidnapped! It's up to us!